because global forces threaten to erode the purchasing power of governments, of businesses, and of domestic households. And so, as a government, we are here to take decisive action to stabilize the lives and the livelihoods of our citizens of the Commonwealth of Dominica. Because families have challenges in meeting the rising cost of basic necessities. So this government is acting with urgency and, very importantly, Mr. Speaker, empathy. Because a government must always be empathetic. It must always show that it cares for the people. Not in words, Mr. Speaker, but by deeds and by actions. And this has been the hallmark of this Dominica Labour Party in government over the last 25 years. And Mr. Speaker, we're doing this at a time when we are being faced with harsh criticisms from opposition forces in the highlighting the Article 4 consultation of 2026. And this, all of a sudden, they love the IMF. They never liked the IMF report. They say the IMF was colluding with Skerrit. But now they're quoting the IMF report. Because they believe that some of the things the IMF said is a negative to the government. But I tell them no. I love the IMF report. I always love the IMF report. I don't agree with some things they say, the kind of language they use sometimes. But I respect the report. It is done diligently and it is done properly. But let me, Mr. Speaker, for perspective and summary, draw to the Parliament and the people of Dominica what the IMF says. Let me find it, Mr. Speaker. What the IMF said. And this is what the IMF says. I'm reading from, Mr. Speaker, from the Article 4 consultation of March of 2026. The IMF says, Mr. Speaker, real GDP growth accelerated to 4.5% in 2025 from 3.5% in 2024, supported by robust tourism, 36% above pre-pandemic levels, and targeted development investments. The airport, the marina, the cable car, housing, roads, supporting the hotel and the private sector, improving doing business in Dominica, all of these things, agriculture. It goes on to say, inflation continued to ease, averaging 2.5% in 2025. The current account deficit remained elevated, primarily reflecting high construction-related imports, which means, Mr. Speaker, in essence, some things are happening. So when they have current account deficit, they believe, well, the government mismanaging, Skerrit not managing, no! Hear what it says. And it goes on to say, strong execution of macro-critical projects, including resilient roads. Bois-Diab, Cassie-Bruce, Calago Territory, Atkinson, Clevois, Louvier, Bellevue-Chopin, Pichelet, Bacatel, Font-Saint-Jean, Fab, Pilitsavan, Grand Bay Road. And geothermal transmission lines, Mr. Speaker. It goes on to say this interrupted the steady fiscal adjustment of recent years by contributing to a widening of the primary deficit in 2024-2025. And this is why we have said, Mr. Speaker, we need to have big ticket items in Dominica. And we know that once you have these big ticket items, it may affect little things. Because ultimately, when these big ticket items get into play, Mr. Speaker, it's going to address all the little things that you have problems with. It goes on to say, Mr. Speaker, real GDP growth is projected to average 3% in 2027, supported by continued strategic investment in flagship infrastructure projects, before gradually slowing to around 2% as construction winds down. The deficit is expected to return to normal on the back of stronger tourism, a normalization of investment-related imports, and lower energy-related fuel imports needs, accompanying the transition to geothermal energy. It goes on to say, Mr. Speaker, the IMF report, the article for consultation. On the current policies, the primary balance is projected to improve from an estimated primary surplus of 0.7% of GDP this year to 1% in the next fiscal year, 2026-2027. Overall risks to the outlook are elevated and tilted to the downside, driven by spillovers from the war in the Middle East, heightened geopolitical and trade tensions, uncertainty surrounding the CBI inflows, and persistent natural disasters. End of quote. This is what the IMF says, Mr. Speaker. So, despite all of these challenges, Mr. Speaker, our economy is expanding, inflation is easing, and our investments are yielding the results that we have said they would yield. And while the current account deficit remains elevated, the IMF attributes this primarily to the robust execution of our macro-critical projects. They didn't say ill-discipline. They recognize that this is what is causing it, Mr. Speaker. And none of the downside risks that the IMF indicated in the economic outlook for Dominica, the Middle East war, heightened geopolitical trade and geopolitical trade tensions, uncertain CBI inflows, and natural disasters are within the control of the government and people of Dominica. None of them. So, in reviewing the IMF report, the critics of the government have tried to make heavy weather of the primary balance benchmark as an indicator that all is not well. All is not well. So, Mr. Speaker, permit me to present to this Honorable House what I hope will clear and give a practical understanding of the concept of primary balance in Dominica's current trajectory and the implications for fiscal policy and decision making in the mold of what is before us today, Mr. Speaker. And so, just to, if you allow me, Mr. Speaker, to read this. The primary balance is the difference between government's total revenue and total expenditure, excluding interest payments on public debt. So you have a primary surplus when revenues exceed non-interest expenditures. And you have a primary deficit when non-interest expenditures exceed revenues. The primary balance is a monitoring tool used to assess 1, fiscal discipline, that is the responsible management of revenue and expenditure, 2, debt sustainability, and 3, government's ability to meet its obligations without excessive borrowing. And for Dominica, these things are Very important because of our high debt and our exposure to external shocks and natural disasters. We are aware of that, and the fact that we are heavily dependent on imports for many of the things that we're doing in our country. We have to import every car, every part of a car, import fuel, import construction material, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, you in the pizza making business, the flour, the pepperoni, the ham, the ground beef, the onion, Mr. Speaker, the oil. All of these things must be imported. Because we don't produce those things. You're building a house, you're building a hotel, you're building a road. The bitumen has to be imported. The nail, the wire mesh, the steel. We have stones and we don't want to take the stone in Dominica, we just take somewhere else. And if you add the stones to that, Mr. Speaker, you understand the. So we have to appreciate those things. And so, Mr. Speaker, in recent years, Dominica's fiscal position has been shaped in large measure by resilience building, or response to COVID-19, or response to external shocks and natural disasters. We've had all material times, Mr. Speaker, in short spaces of time, have had to respond to those shocks, respond to the dislocation that these disasters and external shocks have caused to our country. And so we experience deficits of averaging 4.3% of GDP. All of which, if you look at, Mr. Speaker, the data shows you that these things happen immediately after a natural disaster, after COVID-19, after an external shock. But every other time, Mr. Speaker, there has been positive growth in the economy of Dominica. And even now, as we're going through some of our challenges, mainly due by external shocks, Mr. Speaker, there is still growth in the economy, as highlighted by the International Monetary Fund. And so, Mr. Speaker, thanks to our deliberate policy of fiscal consolidation, Dominica, according to the IMF 2026 Article 4 consultation report, Dominica is now in a primary surplus position of 0.7% of GDP, or $14.7 million. The IMF goes into to recommend, and referencing the IMF report, Mr. Speaker, the IMF recommends that Dominica hits a primary surplus target of 3.4% of GDP, that is approximately $71.4 million. And very soon I can show you where we can get the $71.4 million easily. Soon, by 2027 and 2028, and sustains it over the medium term in order to, one, reduce debt to safer levels. So when the economy grows, it becomes the debt, though may not reduce in terms of nominal value, but in terms of GDP will decrease as well. Okay? Strengthen fiscal discipline. Accumulate 12% of GDP, approximately $252 million in contingent self-insurance against disaster events. And we're discussing that in reference to DOMLEC, in reference to DOASCO, and more of our assets, and enhance economic stability. But let me show you, Mr. Speaker. Where is this document? I bring documents today, Mr. Speaker. Normally I don't have documents, but I bring documents today. Here it is, Mr. Speaker. Government's special programs, school uniforms, school books, school transportation. We transport every child to secondary school. Free Dominica State College tuition. grants to early childhood institutions, over 65 non-contributory pension. That's people who did not pay Social Security and therefore cannot benefit from it because they did not meet the threshold to benefit to get a Social Security pension. Grants to care institutions, free hospital services for those under 18 and those over 60, public assistance, compassionate allowance, National Employment Program, the NEP, rapid response, and provision of financial support for our citizens and residents who need urgent medical care overseas. Mr. Speaker, just with those interventions, you're talking about 92 million. Last year, 2025, 92 million. $560,541.58. So you see where the $71 million is? You see it? So by stopping these programs today, if we stop them today, Mr. Speaker, the Minister of Finance will have $92 million that he can play with and have the $71 million for the account surplus. But this will not happen, Mr. Speaker, because we have to balance the lives of the people of Dominica. The government cannot boast it can balance its life and balance its books, and the people cannot balance their lives. We must have a balance, Mr. Speaker. So when people are talking about, oh, it's scary, this is scary, that, and the economy is this, this is where scary is spending the money. The state college, and I'm young people listening, we gave the state college last year, Mr. Speaker, for free tuition for the students attending the state college, $7,176,806. Last year we spent to send people overseas for urgent medical care, $5,969,614.43. When a lady comes to me and she has a premature baby, and she says to me, Prime Minister, she can't come when the husband comes and say, Prime Minister, I have a baby, the one child we have, and the child is sick in the incubator at the nursery, at the hospital, and I have an invoice for 52,000 euros to go to Martinique. What do I say? What do I say to a parent, Mr. Speaker? What do I say? That go home and pray to God? Or tell her what Job's wife told him to curse God and die? What do I do? As difficult as things may be, and the government needs the money to do other things, we have to help that child, we have to try to save that baby's life. And I was so, Mr. Speaker, I tell people I don't want people to tell me thanks when we do something good. I do. It's not for me. But I was so touched when they brought the baby to me, the child to me after the surgery a while. Child growing well, running across my office. Went to, 2 years later, they brought the child and child watching the fishes there and playing and stuff. These are the kind of things we experience on an ongoing basis, Mr. Speaker. Somebody gets cancer. They need cancer treatment that we can provide here. The government has to stand with the people. That's what we're doing. The people over 65 and over non-contributory pension. I used to go across Dominica, Mr. Speaker, and the senior citizens with me, and just carry it. I used to pay into the Provident Fund, and I get nothing. I work on the government road. I build this bridge. I build a school. I work on the Colas truck. I work at the hospital. And we're getting no pension. This is how we came up about providing them with an allowance. And I can tell you, when I meet these people, Mr. Speaker, they tell me how impactful, as small as it is, how impactful it is on their lives. Now, last year, Mr. Speaker, In that category of over 65 non-contributory pension, we paid $13,309,929 to our senior citizens. Compassionate allowance, school transportation, and all of these buses, Mr. Speaker, are private buses. Private buses, so we put in that money directly into the pocket of the bus owners in Dominica to transport our children to school so that they don't have to be on the roads and exposed to all kinds of challenges. Safely home, safely to school. We spent last year, Mr. Speaker, $3,099,286. And if I were to go on and to tell you the other things that we're doing, where we could get even more money, Mr. Speaker. You know, we have something called ad hoc concessions. It is a concession that is not supported by any legislation. Okay? Somebody come and we give them the concession by the cabinet, or the cabinet has authorized the Prime Minister to do that. Last year, Mr. Speaker, $13.7 million. A young lady, she has a baby, she has 2 children going to school, she has a good job, she saves some money, she wants to live the Dominica dream, to have a motor car herself. She comes to us and says, scared boy, I buy a little vehicle, they're not expensive, but another little concession. What do I say to her? But that's costing the treasury. But what's money we put in the hands of the people? A youngster decides he wants to have a second gig because he's seeing the opportunities in tourism. And he wants to buy 3 little vehicles to put in the rental pool. And he wants a little boost, a little jump start. And we give him the concessions, but that is money that should have come to the treasury, but we give it to him. We let him keep it. Somebody building a house, and a family member sending some building materials for them, or some furniture, some tiles. Then maybe they saw on Amazon, because that's where they're making shopping online. And she likes it. Or they go on Pinterest and so on. So Pinterest and so on, Mr. Speaker. And they love this thing. People watching TikTok videos, Mr. Speaker. But people like nice things. People want to do nice things. And the person comes and says, "Scary boy, build a house there, and a little building material, a little tiles and so on, duty free and so on." We give it to them. But that is money, that's $13.7 million. That many of us in this room and listening to me in the public domain could know how we could spend that money on many little things in the community that we could do. But that money is in the people's pocket. Boosting them, Mr. Speaker. Last year, Mr. Speaker, just for housing assistance, building materials, and some money for labor, so that we can separate the 15-year-old sister from the 17-year-old brother. They can have only space. Or sometimes the young girl got pregnant, she had 2 children, and she lived with her mother still, but she didn't live in the living room. The children sleep in the living room. They would have only a private space. And they come to us. Last year, Mr. Speaker, we spent $27.2 million on this. Between 2024 and 2025, we gave out 723 homes, Mr. Speaker. Average cost of these homes, say $400,000. If we were to sell these homes at $100,000 a piece, I believe you would have about, what, $772.3 or so million? Right? We could have gotten that. We gave some $42 million to the private sector for concessions that is guided by law. In some countries, Mr. Speaker, they don't get 100%. They get 50%, 40%. But we give them 100% in Dominica. There are companies that exist for many decades have not paid income tax at all. And I don't even include income tax waivers and corporate tax waivers into this consideration. And $56 million estimated loss because, Mr. Speaker, people don't pay their VAT to the unit. People underreport in terms of the value of goods on their invoices to customs. People withhold pay from their staff and they don't pay this to the income tax. That's about $56 million that we could have gotten into the treasury. And I'm happy that the Ministry of Finance is enhancing and working on improving the collection, and they've been doing a pretty good job lately. I understand them for that, for the customs and the revenue. But that is a big job for the customs to be monitoring and policing, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker,
Yes.
Mr. Speaker, I move that the Honorable Prime Minister be given 20 minutes, an additional 20 minutes to conclude his presentation.
Seconded, Mr. Speaker.
It has been moved and seconded that the Honorable Prime Minister be given an additional 20 minutes. Those in favor? Those against? The ayes have it. Honorable Prime Minister, you are given an additional 20 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. So, Mr. Speaker, I did not include overseas studies. I did not include what we do for the farmers. I don't include the small business grants and many other such interventions. But when you add up all of what I have articulated here, Mr. Speaker, if we were to eliminate all of them, we would save some $318 million. And if we were to cut it by 50%, you would know how much we would have. So if we start selling a house at $100,000 to people who receive the homes, that could bring revenue into the treasury. If you put the $27 million at the aid bank and you go, you want to fix your house and you get a loan, the money will come back to the government. So we'll keep the $27 million. This is the stark reality, Mr. Speaker. I decided to do something because I don't talk sometimes, scared this, buy. So I wanted to give the government people the facts, the numbers, Mr. Speaker. That's why all people over a projector, I'm not sure what you will say. You can see it. You can see the numbers. You can see the numbers, Mr. Speaker. That's what we're doing. And so, Mr. Speaker, let us all be very clear in this House and the country. Achieving and maintaining a healthy primary surplus requires careful policy choices. And I'll give you some of them, like raising revenue for additional taxes and or enforcement of compliance with tax responsibilities. Two, like controlling recurrent expenditure, and I point out to us there a number of things that we have there. And I could speak about government vehicles and the use of government vehicles, telephones, use, high, just Minister for Health. For the first several months of this financial year, the Ministry of Health for hospitals and health centers has spent $3.8 million to DOMLEC in 7 months. So this, and then you have like prioritizing capital investment. So we have a number of things there that we can cut. But the question is, which ones? Which ones can we eliminate? And we cannot go about cutting indiscriminately, Mr. Speaker. We cannot just cut, say, 50%. Because we're talking about human beings, their welfare, their well-being, their livelihoods, their survival. We cannot just cut, Mr. Speaker. So in doing all of these things, government must simultaneously promote economic growth, support vulnerable households, respond to rising global prices, invest in infrastructure and climate resilience. And so when you are faced with this, Mr. Speaker, there's always the tension between fiscal policy and the welfare of the human being. And I believe that, Mr. Speaker, I never believe that a government, I see a government as a non-profit organization. We have to maintain fiscal prudence. We have to have money for rainy day. But we can't just come here and boast and talk about $71 million primary surplus. And people need help outside there with their house and the transportation and healthcare, Mr. Speaker. No. No. We can achieve this too, Mr. Speaker. That's why when people say about this government and they want to represent the government, you must tell us what is that you're going to provide to the people, Dominica. What are you going to do differently outside of advancing your own selfish personal agendas? Let's talk about the country. Let's talk about Dominica. And what would you do for Dominica, not for yourself? So the idea of going out there and recruiting independent candidates to try to take us carry there, that's not the way to go. No, it's about Dominica, and every single citizen of Dominica has a right to do well in our country. And this is why, Mr. Speaker, I will always stand in defense of the people of Dominica, especially those who are still down on the ground. Because unless we raise everyone up, Mr. Speaker, our work is not over. Those who have, thank God. And those who do not have, we must get, Mr. Speaker. That is the policy. All shall eat, Mr. Speaker. As Dr. Mac always says, all may not eat at all at the same time. But all will eat at some point, Mr. Speaker. And there is nobody in this country, not one living soul, and including the dead, Mr. Speaker, that this government has not touched directly, Mr. Speaker. None. And contrary to what some people are saying, none of these policies are discriminatory. Every child jumps on the bus. Everybody 65 over gets the allowance once you don't have a social security. We don't discriminate. There's nobody who has come to me for healthcare to go overseas and ask them who they are. Who did they support? No. We provide the help to you, Mr. Speaker. And so, Mr. Speaker, measures such as that which the Minister of Finance has presented on behalf of the government, Mr. Speaker, like the VAT and duty waivers on essential goods, are designed to ease the cost of living burden and protect our citizens during this very difficult period of economic stress caused by an external shock, Mr. Speaker. But while these measures provide immediate relief to households, it also reduces on government's revenue. And I'll tell you something, Mr. Speaker. Let me look for this document. Let me look for it. Right, things right. Mr. Speaker, we introduced this measure in July of last year to March of this year. And let me tell you how much revenue that this measure we have not put into the treasury, and we have left in the pockets and purses and wallets of Dominican people. Import duty exempt goods revenue, Mr. Speaker, foregone. July 1, 2025 to March 31, 2026, $4,385,851.83. That's just for the import duty part. Just from July to March. VAT exemptions, revenue foregone, July 1, 2025 to March 31, 2026, $7,281,212.15. A total of over $12 million. And we're here today, Mr. Speaker, to extend this until July, when we'll present the new budget for the new financial year. Ensuring that there is no break, Mr. Speaker, in the relief to the people, especially with the advent of the conflict in the Middle East, and what it is causing on the lives and the livelihoods of every single citizen in this country, in this world, and this country included. And so, this is what we're doing. So we've left over $12 million in just this measure. And there are other measures in the budget, Mr. Speaker. When you add this, we could have had a better primary surplus. But we decide that this is about people, Mr. Speaker. People. And so we're making steady progress in the responsible, sustainable, people-centered management of the nation's finances. Maintaining this trajectory, Mr. Speaker, will require continued discipline, strategic prioritization, and a balanced approach that safeguards both economic stability and the welfare of people. This is why sometimes, Mr. Speaker, people may say, well, why the government hasn't done that? They talked about that some time ago. But when these things happen, these external shocks come, and we have to forego the revenue that we needed to do these things, we have to decide, how do we prioritize? What do we do? Do we give people relief or pursue doing this particular project? Do I cut the medical overseas thing by 50% and use the $3 million to do something else? Do I tell the family who wants to bury their loved one in dignity that we have stopped providing little funeral grants to them so that everybody can be buried, live and buried in dignity? Do we tell the people who want to do duty free on the motor car, little car they bringing in, or the young man who doing the car rental as a gig, what do we say to them? The shop is closed. Or the young couple who's been in a house and they're getting the materials cheaper by importing themselves, and the furniture, and the appliances. Do we say to them, no, the shop is closed because we want to achieve a $71 million primary surplus? Do we tell the parents across Dominica, in Delis, in Pidissavan, in Penville, in Marigot, in Wesley, in Salisbury, in Collio, in Dubla, in Biosh, Scottshead, Soufriere? Should I instruct the Minister of Education and tell them to write to the schools and the parents, tell them that the free transportation for secondary school students is over? No, we should not do that. But those who want to do it, and those who think that it is reckless for us to do, you can achieve it and you can beat your chest. But how would the people be? What would their lives be? Because this thing is targeting the core of the society, the heart of the society, the sensibilities of our people. That's what we're doing, Mr. Speaker. So this is where we are with this. So, Mr. Speaker, this measure before us today, this resolution, this motion, Mr. Speaker, before us today, is really about people. It's about people. It's not about economics. It's not about fiscal policy. It's not about economic indicators and variables. It's not about primary balance or current account deficit or surplus. It's about people. Putting people at the center of what we're doing. The whole notion about putting people first, Mr. Speaker. That's what we hear today. It's about, Mr. Speaker, the single mother who's trying to put food on the table. It's about the pensioner, the senior pensioner with a fixed income, trying to make ends meet. That's what it's about. And it's about the families whose wages, Mr. Speaker, their income have not kept a pace with inflation. This is about people. And these people and these categories of people understand what the government is doing on their behalf. Because as the saying goes, who feels it knows it. There are some who have, and they can do whatever they want, but we must always be concerned about those who are not on equal par with us. Always be. That's what life is about. Complementarity, solidarity, being our neighbor's keeper. So by removing these taxes, on essential goods, we are easing the cost of living on the people, protecting household incomes, and ensuring that basic necessities are within the reach of every single citizen, irrespective of your station in life. And so, Mr. Speaker, we can't control wars that are fought abroad, nor can we dictate global commodity prices. But we can control how we respond, and respond we are today, Mr. Speaker. And our response will always be guided by one fundamental principle: to look out for people, especially in difficult times. And it's not about giving from the largest that we have, it's giving from the little that we have. That's a biblical principle. You give people from the excess that you have rest. That's not empathy, that's not love, that's not caring. But when you give them, when you share somebody, you have one plate of food and you share it in three. That's what it is, and that's what the government is doing. So we're not saying all is well. But we know why all is not well. Because we're spending the money that's supposed to go on to look, the fiscal side look better than it is looking, on human beings, on people. And so this is what responsible governance requires. This is what caring, compassionate, competent leadership demands. And this is what the people of Dominica deserve, Mr. Speaker. A government that understands how people live. And a government that understands the hardships of people and their dreams and their aspirations. Because the government is among the people. And the government is responding based on its knowledge of the people and the challenges that they're confronting. That's what we're doing, Mr. Speaker. So, we are committed to the private sector and keeping in place the concession regime to facilitate and to encourage investments in our country, both local and foreign. We'll continue to support the aid bank in providing funds to the aid bank so it can lend to the private sector at cheaper rates. We'll continue to leverage our majority shareholder at the National Bank to ensure that the National Bank responds to the needs of the economy and the investors in our country. That they can develop policies reflective of the aspirations of our country and our citizens. But we must also remain committed to our children and to our elderly and to our pensioners. We must remain committed to our farmers, Mr. Speaker. We must never talk about just indiscriminately cutting the National Employment Program, because it means so much to so many people. Nothing pleases me more than when an NEP intern comes to me, working under the category of beautification in the country, and with a smile, says to me, Prime Minister, buy a little vehicle. I buy a little vehicle, nothing big, nothing expensive. She save a little money, and she's able to buy a little vehicle to drive around. We have to remain committed to the college students and to the health of our people. This is not a time for us to eliminate the support that we provide to people in the healthcare. We have to provide more education. People have to take care of themselves. But the government has a duty and obligation to provide the healthcare to our people. And so, Mr. Speaker, in extending this relief, we reaffirm our commitment to stand with the people, not only in times of stability, but more importantly, in times of uncertainty. And the people of Dominica, whether you like Skerrit or not, whether you like Labour or not, you cannot say that Labour has not stood by the people in difficult times. And the history of Dominica will show that there has been no government in our country that has been more people-centered, more compassionate, more caring, and more empathetic than this government that I have the honor to lead, Mr. Speaker. And we went through to this because we understand that government is not about the physical only. It's about human beings, their welfare, their well-being. We now have universal access to early childhood education, preschool education. That with the private preschools we are paying, we get them an allowance every term, and we're now taking over a number of preschools, Dominica, where we're providing employment, paying for these people to attend, to teach our children. Provide them with the training to become qualified preschool teachers. And every child in Dominica has access to a preschool in Dominica. I am not prepared to stop that program, Mr. Speaker. Because I understand how important, in my training in psychology, how the foundational years of a child is so crucial. You can make that child to be anything you want to, that child to become in his adult life by what you train a child in his foundation years. And therefore, we have to ensure that every child in Dominica, not those of us who have the ability to send our children to special schools, but those who do not have the ability, the financial support, that every child in Dominica must be given a solid foundation that they can build upon in the adult life and live as productive, respectful citizens of our country. That we must never abandon our senior citizens who have built Dominica that we are enjoying today. Not because life met them with difficult times in old age, Mr. Speaker, that we must abandon them. I met a young lady, Mr. Speaker, and this is why I am so concerned about senior citizens in Dominica. 44 years. 44 years. Got a massive stroke. On her way, she was hypertensive. And she's been bedridden for the last 6 years. We've had to provide her for caregiver. She has no children. And we had to provide her for compassionate allowance, so she can buy food. She can buy some ensure. And she can, at least, as long as God has her on earth, she can live not the best of her life, because she's invalid in terms of being bedridden, but at least she has a comfort. And I even went, Mr. Speaker, my own means and bought her a television, so she can sit down in the room or lie down on the bed and at least watch a little TV and have company when there's none. These are the kinds of things that we don't speak about publicly, that we do, and I encounter every single day in this country. And so, Mr. Speaker, I always maintain, Mr. Speaker, that the strength of a nation is measured not only by economic indicators disclosed in IMF reports and World Bank reports and other reports, Mr. Speaker, but by how well it protects and uplifts its people in times of greatest needs. And so, there are some who will say that we are giving handouts and we should stop it. But for those who are receiving it, my dear brothers and sisters, this is really their survival, their livelihoods. And we must never allow ourselves to be distracted as a government and as a nation from our duty to the people of Dominica. Is this government perfect? Have we done everything correctly? No. But no one can contest that this government has managed the economy of Dominica responsibly. I always say that we have been responsive to the needs of the people, but we've also been responsible. Because it requires a certain level of responsibility to ensure that the ship of state is managed properly, at the same time that the people themselves can benefit from it. And while I will agree full-heartedly that every such program that we have must be continuously evaluated and examined to ensure that it is fit for purpose, that it is responding to the needs, and that it is not being taken advantage of. But we must never, for selfish aggrandizement, suggest that we must do away with these programs. Because at some point, the Lord will come to judge the living and the dead. And so, Mr. Speaker, I support full-heartedly this motion, and that we remain true as a government, that though we have no control over these variables, but we are responding to protect the citizens of our country. And I am happy to be part of this government that understands that, the need for us to be there for our people. That we must not concern ourselves that we had breakfast. We must concern ourselves who may not have had breakfast this morning. And what can we do to ensure that they too can have something to eat? Because there are some of us who throw food after we eat. But there's some who have to put it in the freezer for lunch. And that's the reality. And so this is all. Okay, I think the speaker will give me 2 minutes. The way you have that for
You get 1 minute already.
Mr. Speaker, I move that the Honorable Prime Minister be given an additional 15 minutes. And I'm sure that we all will agree how deep, how profound, and how impactful this presentation is. I was moved to ask for a day, but I'm trying to be reasonable.
Mr. Speaker.
It has been moved and seconded that the Honorable Prime Minister be given an additional 10 minutes. Those in favor? Aye. Those against? The ayes have it. Honorable PM, you are given an additional 10 minutes. Or 15. An additional 15. I try to minus 5, but...
So Mr. Speaker, I have tried to respond to the IMF report and to explain to the Dominican people what the report explained and the facts of the matter. I know that the government is oblivious to the facts or is indifferent to the facts. The government is aware of what's going on. The government is aware of the measures they can take if it wants to have a primary surplus of $71 million. But I don't believe that the government should be boasting while the people have challenges. And so, even if housing, and I feel at some point, Mr. Speaker, we have to review the government's policy on free houses. That I believe that the time has come that we have built sufficient homes in Dominica, and the time has come where people have to pay something for those homes that they're receiving. But these are investments that we've had to make for people who have lost everything and people who will never have the ability to build a home on their own. And I have seen firsthand, Mr. Speaker, the sheer positive impact on the way of life and the standard of living of these people who receive those homes. That they have access to water and electricity, basic things. And oftentimes, Mr. Speaker, people want to compare us to other countries. But those don't compare the superficial things. Deeper into your research. And you will see that what this government is doing for people in Dominica, those countries are not doing it, Mr. Speaker. Because they ask me all the time, how do you do it? We so little money. We do it because we are moved by empathy, by understanding that we don't have to preoccupy ourselves all the time, only with economic indicators as outlined by the International Monetary Fund. Because at the end of the day, we are a government. And so while I'm not adverse to the recommendation and suggestion, because they're all rightly placed, but the government has a duty and obligation to examine each of those recommendations and to look at all your programs and policies and to see in a good conscience whether those things, what you're proposing to cut and to eliminate, is the right thing to do. For me, who has a broader view of the country, from my position, I understand it better than most. Because there's people in the country look at it from their narrow perspective. I have to look at it from every perspective. And I always say, Mr. Speaker, that I don't believe that we only have a political duty to our people, but we have a biblical duty to the people, as enshrined in Matthew 25. That's what it is. And so we'll continue to support the private sector, continue to support the important projects to grow the economy. That's what we're doing, and we've seen the results. But we must continue to hold the hands of those who need a hand holding until they can get across the river and be on their own 2 feet. But the reality is, Mr. Speaker, a 72-year-old lady, we can tell her go to work. So I want to thank the House for giving me some extra time. Though I think it might be better to move to amend the rules of the House to give the Prime Minister leader a little more time for such contributions, Mr. Speaker. But I will leave it to the House to decide on that. But I want to thank him for the time, Mr. Speaker. I want to thank the Minister for Finance for this, and the Financial Secretary and others for working on this, the AG's office working on this to be here in Parliament. And this is a great day for people, Dominic. Great day. I'm so happy, Mr. Speaker. I said I have to leave at some point, Mr. Speaker, 12:30 there about. I have to attend the funeral in my village, so I will be absent. Thank you so much.
Yes, Senator Parrish, you are recognized. You may proceed.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, for your recognition. Parliamentary colleagues, good morning. Mr. Speaker, it's good to be back. My presentation will be very short. The presentation by the Prime Minister was the conversation that he started. I think is a very important conversation. And Mr. Speaker, you were right. I don't think it was a slip of the tongue earlier. I think it was a revelation, an inspiration that this almost feels like budget. It almost felt like a budget response. I wouldn't go that far with my response, but I want to comment on the conversation. A few little things that I consider to be housekeeping before we get into it. There's a lapse between May 31st and today, and we're now doing the extension today. Maybe the Minister of Finance in his wrap-up can give our merchants and our distributors some confidence that that 10-day gap, even if they had goods that came in that would be subject to the VAT and import duty application, that they shouldn't get nervous and skyrocket the price within that 10-day and say that that is when they brought it in and so on and so forth, right? And on that note, I would like to assume that the government is comfortable with the level of monitoring and control that they have been doing. I will be honest that in my questioning and in the evaluations that I've done, even online, Mr. Speaker, you know, social media is one of the places where you look for indicators as to the impacts of these types of policies on people. There has not, and I stand corrected, there has not been as much complaints as regards to people not seeing the difference. And I think Dominican people would complain. Yes, that is something to clap about. I think that's something that we can be commended on. But this is not to say that we should take it for granted. We should continue to monitor, control, and to work with the private sector, our merchants and our distributors to ensure that we are making sure that what we're doing here, the policies that we are instituting here, get to the people who it is intended to impact. So, Mr. Speaker, 1 and 2. And Mr. Speaker, on the interest in while we're on it, I have an ask. In the spirit, the leader of government, in the spirit of relieving the burden on the people of Dominica as it relates to finances and absorbing the external shocks that we have no control over. We have one more little thing. Now that the Electoral Commission has come to its senses, even though they didn't respond to my letter, you know, we have some good people over there. I still want to lay on the table again the request that we should remove, for a temporary period, the $20 fee for applications for receiving birth certificates for individuals who want to confirm. In the same spirit of easing the burdens on Dominicans, making it easier for disadvantaged people to go and confirm. And we're all honest here. We know we have some difficulties, and that is one of the things that people are bringing up. And now that the Electoral Commission has conceded and they've gotten back to their senses and good sense has prevailed, one of the measures that we can look at is for the period of confirmation. All eligible voters, and the Prime Minister is agreeing with me. I'd like to let the listening public know that his mic is off. You can't hear him. Clap, please. I think that is something that we can agree on in the spirit of easing the burden on the people of Dominica. But on the issue of ensuring that we respond to external shocks, and Mr. Prime Minister, I'd like to side with you on this. You know, I find these days we're getting things to side on. I don't know what's going on. But let me. Anybody that is suggesting that you should reduce and remove social assistance programs for the disadvantaged people of Dominica, I would like to categorically distance myself from that. The social assistance programs for the people of Dominica is something that is necessary. Even in the Bible says that the wheat and the tares will grow together, and those people will always be with you, and it is our responsibility as a government and as people in Dominica to take care of disadvantaged people. No, you're taking it too far. No, that's not what I'm saying. No, you're proud of me? Thank you. No, you're going too fast. Take it easy. No, but Mr. Speaker, on a very serious note, we have to understand the value of taking care of people who can't take care of themselves. And Prime Minister alluded to it. People will try to abuse the programs. And monitoring and control and efficiency and ethics will assist us with managing that. And some of the people that want to take advantage of these social assistance programs is our friends, and we must stop them, we must call them out. We will always have those people too. But to remove the program because we have to balance, Mr. Speaker. But Mr. Speaker, I want to show us some places. Instead of looking at reducing and removing and asking the Minister of Finance to stop the social assistance programs for all of these people with varying ranges of disadvantages, why don't we add some things? I don't want the people listening, and particularly people who are listening to the Prime Minister, to think that we're bragging about not being able to manufacture things in Dominica, because we can and we should. I listened to an old man, Mr. Speaker, a few years ago, and he said to me, young fella, the soil in Dominica is so good, particularly in the central rainforest, that if you stand around too long, you will start to grow. I mean, it's a bit of an exaggeration, Mr. Speaker, but the point is being made that we can almost grow anything we want. But Mr. Speaker, if that is true, we should be able to add value to the things that we can grow. We should be able to put systems in place that will allow us to allow our farmers, people who have some of the greatest, another old man, senior, was telling me something about the moon the other day. He told me that is why I cut my hair in the wrong moon. So that, you know, he told me that could have been affecting it. Because you understand, right? Minister, sorry. You understand, it's the wrong mood. But Mr. Speaker, these people have a significant amount of talent that is not found anywhere, and you can't teach it in schools. But we need to give them something to do with it. These men can produce food and add to our food security in Dominica, but we need to add value to it. We need to be able to take the plantains that we have, and we can grow with little to no effort, and allow these farmers to bring them to a factory or some kind of collection station, and they just know they have to bring it there. Mr. Speaker, you want to know what I saw on the shelves recently? Banan peze in a plastic, in a package. No. Of course, it's private sector, Mr. Prime Minister. I understand you, but nothing is preventing us from partnering with the private sector to ensuring that we can add to our food security and the production of food. That is what is going to help us, Mr. Speaker. That is what is going to help us to withstand all of these external shocks and reduce our import bill. That is where we can add, not reduce, to our GDP. By partnering with the private sector and partnering with young people who have these ideas, but they don't have no collateral, they don't have no money, but they have a good idea. They want to, no, and that is good. So we should be doing more. We should be doing more. That is, so you're making my point, Minister. You're making my point. We well on track. But the point I'm making, Mr. Speaker, is the fact that we do not have control over these external shocks. The Strait of Hormuz doesn't belong to us, you know. There's big guys with big ships that controlling that, and the agendas don't encompass our ideologies at all, and we have no control over that. But the minute they start, it starts to affect us. Shipping, oil, energy, all of those things go up. I'm saying, Mr. Speaker, we, knowing that fully, should be doing more to ensure that regardless of these guys and their arguments and what is happening geopolitically, we can feed our people. We can invest in manufacturing and production. That type of investment, you know what it's going to do, Mr. Speaker? It's going to add jobs. It's going to add employment. And other investors, other private sector people, seeing the equilibrium and the balance and the buoyancy in our economy, will be willing to add more and invest more. What does that do, Mr. Speaker? It puts our people in a position where they have less reliance on the social assistance programs. The $300 million that we're spending will be reduced because our people can fend better for themselves. They can pay for the school bus. Some people will get off the program because now they can buy their own school books and they can make space for somebody else. They can go and they can hire insurance agencies and buy health insurance so that when they're in a dire need, like we often are, they can afford to pay for it. And they can make space for who's coming. That type of investment in sustainable development is something I think we have the potential to look more at. And instead of being bothered with people who amateurly, ignorantly, and selfishly consider getting rid of social assistance programs, let's focus our energies in adding sustainable investments to our economy and ensuring that all our people have the opportunity to develop for ourselves. But like Mr. Prime Minister, you are right. Like the airport, I've always been an advocate for the airport. But Mr. Speaker, again, in the airport situation, one of the ways we can ease the impact is ensuring that all our people have work and they are prioritized. Ensuring that our young people can get training and qualifications on new projects like that. That is what we do, Mr. Speaker. Not consider or get involved in conversations that threaten to remove subsistence for seniors. No, we're not entertaining that conversation. Where we focus in our energies is ensuring that we're making sure that our able-bodied men and women in Dominica who have right-thinking minds and the right agenda of country building are able to build a life in Dominica. Because we decide to spend money investing in sustainable development. Mr. Speaker, you can't tell me it can't happen, you know. It can happen. I want to tell you a story. It's not my story to tell, but I heard the man tell it publicly, and I want to reference it because it impacted me, and I'm so impressed with the young man. I heard a young man who opened a hotel recently in the south. Say he just went on a piece of land, and he said, I'm going to build a hotel here. In a skip and a wink, Mr. Speaker, there's a 5-star hotel over there. There's a 5-star hotel over there. You cannot tell me that with the same emphasis, we can't build a plantain flour factory. No, but it can't be something personal. It has to be something collective. It has to be something that's managed, like the non-profit organization that the Prime Minister spoke about. It has to be something for all of our people to benefit from. Maybe we can be stakeholders together, but it has to be something that helps us to sustainably grow and add to our GDP, add to our production on a manufacturing level. Give our people who have the potential and the skill to grow anything in Dominica a place to bring it and add value to it. So it's no longer a plantain, it's not fried plantain, it's plantain chips, it's banan peze in a bag, it's plantain flour. Adding to our ability to fight against CNCDs by producing healthy food in Dominica, for Dominicans first. That is one of the ways we find that $71 million. That is one of the ways we help people to get off the social assistance programs that we have. That's the way we do it. By empowering our people with our resources. And it can be done. And I think what we need to do as a nation is come together more and find ways to partner on some of these things that, in my view, Mr. Speaker, non-negotiable. The development of Dominica and Dominica's children and the future for Dominica's children is not something that we can debate about. We can have differences of opinion and different roads to get there. We can have different instrumental values, but the terminal value is that Dominicans must develop and Dominicans must thrive in their country. Nothing, no argument about who should be on social assistance and we should cut it off. And no, Mr. Speaker, that's not what we're doing. And as Afro-Kalinago people, as Afro-Kalinago, as a country of Afro-Kalinago descent, we are too small to have these divides. But it must be a priority for us, given where we are and what we know. It must be a priority for us to be smart and ensure that some of the money, some of the investment, some of the brilliant minds that we have are coming together to do things sustainably. Because like we understand a lot of the external shocks, we have no control over it. It's not our responsibility. We're just innocent bystanders. But we know that already. So let's do something about it. Let's ensure that our country, the country that we have, remains ours to build and ours to thrive in. With these few words, Mr. Speaker, thank you very much, and I support the resolution.
Yes, Honorable Minister. You yield to Honorable Blackmore?
Yes.
Honorable Blackmore, you are recognized. You may proceed.
Yes.
Seniority.
No seniority.
Yeah. Well, based on age,
Well, Mr. Speaker,
let's proceed.
Dominica is hosting a 3-day Caribbean Firearm Roadmap. And it's being done for the instrumentality of the Ministry of National Security. So I'm supposed to be down there in a while. Yes, but Mr. Speaker, I rise to support the resolution before this Honorable House. And after this very inspiring display by the Prime Minister, I believe there's nothing much for none of us on the side to say on this Honorable House. Quite honest with you. Because I realize that Senator Paris himself was highly inspired by the presentation of the Prime Minister. And he was inspired not only by the tone of the Prime Minister, but he was significantly inspired and impressed by the buffet of love, Mr. Speaker, that was presented on the table of the Dominican Labour Party, Mr. Speaker. The buffet of love. And then there are many choices, Mr. Speaker, in that buffet of love, Mr. Speaker, on the table. And the Prime Minister, in granular details, Mr. Speaker, made reference to a number of social programs, Mr. Speaker, that people of this country are benefiting from. Going back to the measure, Mr. Speaker, which is before this Honorable House, and the revenue foregone as a consequence, Mr. Speaker. And for me, as a Minister of National Security and Legal Affairs, there are so many things that could have been done with that money that have been forgone. Fire trucks for the fire and ambulance services. Vehicles for the police force. Okay? Equipment for the court system. Computers for the aid chambers. And, Mr. Speaker, the list goes on. But beyond that, Mr. Speaker, it speaks to also the fiscal financial management and the level of competence that have been demonstrated therefore, Mr. Speaker. Because why do I say that, Mr. Speaker? Mr. Speaker, on average, on a monthly basis, the Minister for Finance and the Ministry for Finance have to find $22,674,000 just to pay salaries, Mr. Speaker. Just to pay salaries. And at no time, even during the COVID period and before that, Maria, that salaries were paid late, Mr. Speaker. Now, you are looking in terms, Mr. Speaker, in terms of the geopolitical dynamics we are currently confronted with, Mr. Speaker. And we know not only about petrol, but we're now going to see in the next month or two the implications on fertilizer for our farmers, Mr. Speaker. And at that time, Mr. Speaker, any other government would have come to this honorable house and say, okay, things are hard, we have to cut back on this, cut back on this. But no, we are saying to the people of Dominica, this Labour Party administration is about love. It's about caring for the people of this country. And we're saying that we want to bring relief to you further, beyond the period of time stipulated, Mr. Speaker, and to extend it, take it into consideration what is currently confronting the world and Dominica by extension. I want to just say, in response to what Mr. Paris has said, Senator Paris, which makes sense, that some of the measures that have been implemented are not reflected on the shelves. And therefore, the intention to bring relief to the people of this country, that intention is not being effective. It's not being effectuated, Mr. Speaker, for want of a better term. Let me just make it fundamentally clear here. Whereas it is difficult to prove, but the intention of this government by way of this measure was never to have allowed business places to enjoy any pecuniary advantage. The enjoying of pecuniary advantage, Mr. Speaker, is an offense. Though it is difficult to prove, Mr. Speaker, but when you're not passing on the saving that has been realized to the consumer, you are indeed committing an offense. So I want to agree with Senator Paris. There's need, Mr. Speaker, the Minister for Foreign Affairs, straight, working in concert with the Ministry of Finance to do monitoring on behalf of the citizens of this country to ensure that when measures are taken, the intention, therefore, can be effectuated. And that intention can only be effectuated when the people of this country, when the consumers get the intended results of that measure, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I'm happy that Senator Paris realizes that this country is too small for all of us talking on the different sides of our mouths on matters of national significance and national importance, Mr. Speaker. And he made reference to the need to create an environment where people can work in this country, where people can work, can stay and work. Mr. Speaker, he made reference to adding value. But the international airport, when completed, will create the possibility for the emergence, Mr. Speaker, of a new economy in creative arts, but in industries, Mr. Speaker. And therefore, Mr. Speaker, now is the time for us, including the private sector, to start thinking and reorienting our minds to building around the international airport, in tourism, Mr. Speaker, and even adding value, Mr. Speaker, in manufacturing. This, Mr. Speaker, is an invitation for the private sector to see the possibilities and to maximize the possibilities that will exist as a result of the completion of the international airport, Mr. Speaker. I therefore call on Mr. Paris to use his good self, because when you speak in Parliament, and I realized today he was very brave because you're protected within the precinct of Parliament, Mr. Speaker. That's why you're liberated to speak the way you spoke this morning, and I want to commend you for that. Recognizing, Mr. Speaker, the importance of the international airport and the completion, I call on you to use your good self and your good office to say to your comrades and your associates to free up the branch, Mr. Speaker. To free up the airport, Mr. Speaker. Free up the airport, Mr. Speaker, and allow, Mr. Speaker, Mr. Yes. It's relevant to comment on the international airport because you recognize in your completion, you realize in your contribution, you spoke about the international airport. You spoke about it. The rules, therefore, which I'm very aware and familiar with, provide me the opportunity to make reference to what you said, Mr. Speaker, and that's what I'm doing. And you recognize, therefore, that the international airport is good, is a good thing. Precisely. So I'm saying, therefore, what we're now experiencing, Mr. Speaker, is something that's been done, Mr. Speaker, to prevent the airport completion date from being effected. And I believe, therefore, from my interpretation, I believe, therefore, you have a responsibility to say, okay, if all the mitigating factors are met, you have no difficulty in ensuring that the activity at the branch continues. Mr. Speaker, insofar as the birth certificates are concerned, Senator Parrish made reference to the need to remove the fees. Yeah, the Labour Party, I'm not the Minister of Finance, I'm not the Prime Minister, I'm the Minister responsible. I'm the Minister responsible for the birth certificates, vital life certificates, so to speak. What we are doing, Mr. Speaker, and I believe it's a reasonable request, and I believe the Labour Party administration has demonstrated, Mr. Speaker, that it's on the people's side. So anything that is intended, Mr. Speaker, to bring relief to the people of this country, the Labour Party will give consideration to it, Mr. Speaker. Having said that, I believe that
Your mic. Your mic. No, I did not cut it off. So some technical difficulty again. Try any one of them. Try.
One.
It's working?
1, 2, yes, sir.
Try yours again.
Testing, test, yeah. Go ahead, Blocks.
Okay, let's, should we suspend? Let's suspend. Okay,
Hello?
yeah.
You can come here.
Yeah, he can come switch there quick. Yeah.
That is why, Mr. Speaker, I made a serious call for Parviz to have been in the finals. Because somebody definitely did Parviz at the max. Mr. Speaker, I just want to reiterate what I said just now about Senator Paris, who was brilliant this morning. And he is a former candidate for the leadership of the main opposition party.
Yes, Honorable Blackmore, what is the relevance?
No, I go back. I'm saying, listen. I was talking about, Mr. Speaker, I'm complimenting the senator, and I'm giving a foundation for what I said earlier on, and the Prime Minister's contribution when we were talking about the Labour Party by virtue of the many social programs that the Labour Party is providing to this country, which is supported.
Yeah, proceed.
So I am putting that and using the metaphor, therefore, a buffet of love. You know what a buffet is? Okay? A buffet, comes to a buffet, you meet several dishes in a buffet, etc. So I'm saying to you, Mr. Speaker, the Labour Party has been providing in the past, and it is manifested here today, a buffet of love, to which Senator Paris is fascinated by. He likes the buffet. He loves the buffet, Mr. Speaker. And that's why I'm saying to him, if you like the buffet, you love the buffet, come and partake in the buffet, Mr. Speaker. And to say further, Mr. Speaker, that the senator was a candidate for the leadership of the Workers' Party. The Workers' Party is on the record of saying that we need to end some of the social programs. Isn't that so? They say we are trying to buy vote. We are creating a dependency environment in this country, Mr. Speaker. I'm saying, therefore, and they have been speaking, every utterance is one of grievance, is one of hate. So I'm saying, and I'm asking you, Mr. Speaker, for you and your authority, Mr. Speaker, having listened to the senator, I'm saying to the Dominican public, you have a buffet of love from the Labour Party's table, and a buffet of hate and grievance from the Workers' Party. Which buffet will you choose, Mr. Speaker? That's what I'm saying. It's simple. I would choose a buffet of love, Mr. Speaker. And that is what the Dominican Labour Party is offering to the people of this country. A buffet of love, Mr. Speaker. And Mr. Speaker, I support this resolution. This resolution has manifest in it what the Labour Party stands for, and it's standing for the people of this country, standing for the downtrodden and the maladjusted, Mr. Speaker. And I support this resolution, Mr. Speaker. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker, I rise to make a brief contribution to wholeheartedly support this resolution before this House. Mr. Speaker, as the Prime Minister said, in a time of global conflict and great uncertainty in the world. Yet it is the Dominican Labour Party government continues to put people first, Mr. Speaker. And I'm really proud to be a part of a government that is so people-centered. I will not go over, because I think the Prime Minister, after the presentation by the Minister of Finance, and I want to thank him and his team for prudently managing the finances of Dominica, that in uncertain times, we can cushion the impact on the people of this country. After the Prime Minister made his brilliant presentation on all the relief that this government is providing to the citizens of this great country, Mr. Speaker, the millions of revenue being forgone in the social, forgone, and the millions being spent on social programs to ensure that we can protect the most vulnerable among us, and also to empower, Mr. Paris, the small business sector and private sector to make investments. The Prime Minister listed the amount of concessions, the value of the concessions forgone in revenue to empower the private sector to expand their businesses and young Dominicans, entrepreneurs, to start new businesses, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, that is why the Dominican people will always put their trust and hope in this Dominican Labour Party government, Mr. Speaker. Well, Mr. Speaker, I want to go on a different angle, and I thought Mr. Paris would have mentioned it, Senator Paris. Yeah, it is, as I said, in a time of great uncertainty, the government is foregoing revenue. It does not mean that the cost of operating the country is decreasing. It is increasing as well. When fuel costs rise, prices rises, it also impacts the government. So that means the government has to spend more to deliver on goods and services to its citizens, Mr. Speaker. And here it is, Mr. Speaker, in all these trying times, the government is trying to grow the economy, increase revenue, to replace the revenue forgone by building the most transformative project in our history, Mr. Speaker, the international airport, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, Dominica grew by 7.5% last year. Where's my phone? Because I want to read from an article. Thank you. Yes. I want to be on the list of national security. I want to read from an article, Mr. Speaker. A breakout year in the Caribbean. And this article was published by Caribbean Tourism Organization. Dominica recorded 98,724 stayover visitors in 2025, a 17.6% increase. The highest growth rate of any Caribbean destination last year, according to the Caribbean Tourism Organization data. The highest, Mr. Speaker. And here it is, Mr. Speaker. We are making an investment in the international airport that is going to increase revenues. Because when more people come to the country, they will consume more. Revenue will increase. Government revenue will increase. So when we're experiencing these external shocks and these uncertain times, we can continue to cushion the impact on our citizens, Mr. Speaker. And that is why, Mr. Speaker, I thought Senator was going to mention it when he mentioned the international airport, because we are employing many Dominicans on site and they're acquiring skills. There are over 300 people employed on the international airport project. But what I thought you would have said is what Senator Honorable Blackmore said, that that is mind-boggling why Dominicans would be demonstrating at Day Wash to stop a project that's going to add, use the word add, that's going to add revenues. People are Mr. Speaker, they are at Day Wash, and Mr. Speaker, it's okay for people to have concerns and ask questions. But Mr. Speaker, it has turned into a party. People cooking jot. Mr. Speaker, jot on the side of the road, Mr. Speaker. All in an effort to stop the international airport project. And it's not hearsay, Mr. Speaker. I heard them myself. I heard one said, we don't need an international airport. Stop the project. We don't need it. I heard it myself from one of the protesters, Mr. Speaker. And that is how we are trying to add revenue and not pass the burden on the citizens of the country, Mr. Speaker. And people are out there, Mr. Speaker, in their own narrow-minded views and mission, because they believe that if they stop the airport, they will stop the Dominican Labour Party from being in government, Mr. Speaker. All our lives, from my grandfather days to my mother days, we've been talking about an international airport. You talk about coming together. This is the time we should come together to protect our future, to protect revenue streams, to continue the development of this beautiful country. We should not be divided on this major project. And I want to hear you add, as you mentioned, your voice to say, let the airport continue. We are addressing the concerns. We are putting mitigation measures. You, Laurie, Shadow Minister of Tourism, I haven't heard you, Senator Laurie, Shadow Minister of Tourism, speaking in defense of the international airport. That is going to add revenue. The marina, add revenue. Geothermal energy, save. Bring savings to the people. The government is leading and doing key infrastructural projects that's going to save people money and increase revenue in this country. We're already doing it, Senator Paris. When you see all you spoke about balance pays in bags, it's because of the $30 million we have put in small business and the aid bank that average Dominicans are accessing to do the packaging. And the government has said, any private sector that want to expand in manufacturing, we will provide all the concessions so you could do so. We have the abattoir. Minister of Agriculture is here for $1 a year, waiting for partnership from the private sector to run the abattoir. There are opportunities in this country. There are opportunities in tourism. Mr. Speaker, if you speak to the average taxi operator, they have moved from 2 to 5 vehicles, Mr. Speaker. And the government has enabled that investment by putting a line of credit at the aid bank, which was fully utilized, Mr. Speaker. People, taxi operators now are purchasing luxury vehicles because we have a lot of high-end tourists visiting Dominica, Mr. Speaker. So, Mr. Speaker, that is what I want the senator to speak about. Speak about what the government is doing to add revenue and encourage your fellow colleagues in the private sector to lead in other areas. The government can't do everything, Mr. Speaker. We have a responsibility, and we are doing it in a time when fuel prices are rising. Geothermal energy is coming on stream. That's a savings for households. So the government is doing its part, Mr. Speaker, in critical times. And that is why, Mr. Speaker, I want to encourage all Dominicans to stand up for the international airport project, stand up for the marina project, stand up for the cable car project, because these projects are critical, essential to ensure that we increase revenue for the state and put more money in the pockets of Dominicans and make more financing, the same financing he wants us to assist other Dominicans with. That is how we're going to raise the money to put other credit lines so the private sector can access, so young entrepreneurs can access, Mr. Speaker, to further advance their businesses in this country, Mr. Speaker. So, Mr. Speaker, I wanted to make that point, Mr. Speaker, because that is critical. While we are foregoing revenue, we are pursuing projects to increase revenue, and we need the support of all Dominicans to do so, Mr. Speaker. And Mr. Speaker, I also want to encourage, whilst I'm on my feet, those in Dominica who call themselves, well, the professionals of Dominica, Mr. Speaker, whilst you see that the government is doing its best to provide relief to its citizens, Mr. Speaker, there is a small fee for professionals. I mean lawyers, engineers, doctors, accountants, of $1,000 annually, $80, Mr. Speaker. And Mr. Speaker, this we have outstanding debt in millions of that small fee. Let us play our part also, especially those who can, to pay their taxes, Mr. Speaker. Pay their dues. Render to Caesar what is due to Caesar, Mr. Speaker. We have to make a greater effort, Mr. Speaker, to support the government so we can continue in these trying times to provide relief to the people of Dominica, Mr. Speaker. So, Mr. Speaker, with these few words, Mr. Speaker, I want to say I support this motion before the House, Mr. Speaker. I want to tell my people of the Soufriere constituency that, Mr. Speaker, I hear a lot of talk about elections. And I want to say to the economists, I hope he receive a lesson on running a government this morning from the Prime Minister, because that is the real economics, what the Prime Minister spoke about today. So I hope he took a page from his book and he took notes. So, Mr. Speaker, I want to tell the opposition, don't worry about election, whether it happened before confirmation or after confirmation. The people of Point Michel, Gallior, Soufriere, and Scott said, know that the Dominica Labour Party is the only government that has truly cared for them. And today is another indication why any time elections is called, they will continue to vote for the Dominica Labour Party. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I hope you will permit me to speak from a location that is not designated to me due to the difficulties with the microphone. You know, I have to be very clear on that. But Mr. Speaker, after listening to the Prime Minister, the leader of the House, and I felt that perhaps there's not much that I can add to the debate at this time. However, as the Minister responsible for trade, energy, and foreign affairs as well, I think it behoves me to get on my feet in support of the resolution before us. Mr. Speaker, I want to begin by expressing my support for the resolution. And I must say too that I was moved somewhat by Senator Paris. And, you know, listening to him, the sweet melody of a song that comes to mind. Come home. Okay, but Mr. Speaker, I felt so moved by his contribution, and then followed by the Honorable Minister of National Security. I think so far the presentations have been excellent, and the Minister of Tourism has acquitted herself sufficiently as she speaks to our achievements in tourism. And I think that lends for a very interesting debate. But Mr. Speaker, with regards to the resolution before us, and which really zero rates 11 items, and I think it's important to remind the public why we're here, that last year at the budget, the Minister of Finance indicated that from October 1, 11 new items would be zero rated. And I have to say that going through the list of items again, something I found rather peculiar. I saw corned beef, canned corned beef. And you know, for the life of me, I was trying to figure when last I ate corned beef, and did it really have corn and beef? You ever ask yourself where that name came from? It's rather peculiar. But anyway, it's corns of salt that is used in the preparation. So it's not corn, you know. It have corn in it. It have corn in it. But anyway, it came from the name, the Old English, the corns of salt, in which it was deposited in the brine for 5 to 10 days, and hence to have it preserved. So it's sparingly, lest we fall into the malaise of NCDs as was spoken by Prime Minister. But all the same, those zero-rated items are very important for daily consumption. And I want to say that as a Ministry of Trade, and I have to thank Permanent Secretary Mrs. Barbara Daly and her staff of the Division of Trade for the initiative that they took. Once the announcement was made, they actually went out to do some baseline studies, and in September of last year, September 24th, they completed what was called the baseline studies, just to get the price on the shelves. They went to 6 supermarkets and were able to see what were the prices of those 11 items. And then later, by December 12, they went back to conduct the assessment to determine whether, in fact, those zero-rated items were reflected. And I have to say that we found out that out of the 6 supermarkets, one we did not get, we were not satisfied with some of the data that was collected, but it showed that there was a significant reduction from 10 to 16.8%. So it was actually, so that's why, so you're right, Senator Paris. When you said that for your own online survey, you realized that it was working because there were not many complaints. So in fact, yes, and we have to thank the importers, the wholesalers, the major supermarkets, because they actually reflected the reduction by zero-rating the goods. So that was something that we're very happy that they participated and contributed. Although we found out, interestingly, that sometimes of the year, especially around Christmas and Creole Festival, it was not as we expected, but on the whole, they did reflect a reduction. So we're very happy about that. And I have to thank the Division of Trade for that. I mean, we have the data. I can actually give you the actual numbers for the actual goods and at each supermarket, but I will not seek to go into that. But there has been some significant. We saw that in the laundry detergents, liquid and powder, tomato, ketchup, canned corned beef, cereals, toothpaste, and luncheon meats. And Mr. Speaker, while I'm on my feet, I have to thank my colleagues in CARICOM, the Council of Trade and Economic Development, the COTED. They actually agreed to allow Dominica a waiver for the CET, the Common External Tariff, for the duration of the time. We will have to, however, make another request for its extension, and I don't see much difficulties. But I have to thank them, especially for those countries that produce those items, and they have sufficient production that would bar us from reducing the duties on those items. So they cooperated well with us, and we're very grateful for that. And we will see, we have more work to do at our next quoted meeting when we will be making a submission. But Mr. Speaker, we're having this conversation and we're discussing this resolution at a time when the world has changed. From February 28th, we've seen what has happened with the war in the Middle East, US, Israel, and Iran, and how that has also, no pun intended, engulfed the Gulf states, and the impact in the Strait of Hormuz, and what that is doing to the price of commodities. Mr. Speaker, although the Strait of Hormuz, we've seen a major reduction and restrictions in the movement of ships from that area, and if everybody's been looking at the news and you look at the map and you will see that the Gulf states up to Oman, they are all contained within that area, and the passageway is really the Strait of Hormuz. So for the oil and gas to move, they have to pass through that way, with the exception of Saudi Arabia, who can go the other way around. and pass through all the way going to the Red Sea. But what's that means that 20%, which means that 2 barrels out of every 10 barrels that is produced and sold globally must pass through that passageway. For us in Dominica, our fuel, diesel, gasoline, jet fuel, that is not where we get our fuel from. We get our fuel generally from another Gulf area, which is the Gulf of Mexico, through, of course, there's no such thing, through, and of course, using the West Texas intermediate as the benchmark for pricing, which is slightly lower than the global Brent crude, which you see most of the time. So we get our fuel from that area, thankfully. And all the importers have assured us that they have no difficulties getting product from that area to Dominica. So I've been in touch with all the major importers, and that is what they have reported. However, the prices of fuel, gas, diesel, petrol, whatever you should call it, LPG, kerosene, they are priced globally. So even if there may be different marketplaces and different pricing that you may see, but generally they're taken as a whole. So 20% still means that the other 80% is affected in terms of pricing. And this is why price of gasoline at the pump in the US was about $3 on February 27th. And today it's over $5 a gallon. And we have seen the same happening here. So there are serious implications for us, and I think it's important to place that context, because I remember when the Ukraine war started, I attended a meeting somewhere in a community, and I remember we were talking about, you know, the war in Ukraine and the impact it will have on us, and a fella stood up in the meeting and he said, ki Ukraine war sa. You know, what does that have to do with us? The war in Ukraine doesn't affect us. But we have to understand that these things affect us. These are global events. We are an open economy, and those things will affect us. In the case of that war in the Middle East, it is going to have, and it's already having, serious implications on us. Because the primary production of fertilizer and some of the stock for fertilizer, the raw materials, really are produced through LNG. Qatar, being one of the world's biggest supplier of LNG, is also one of the major suppliers of fertilizer. Again, the same principle. We may not be getting our fertilizer from that part of the world, but the global impact on fertilizers will mean that our other suppliers, and we've been in touch with them, we've been in touch with the local importers, and to find out from them what are their suppliers saying. So far, there are no threats of any shortage, but also there's no indication of an increase, but we expect over time that there will be an increase, because once the price of fuel goes up, shipping goes up. And we have already been informed by one of the major shipping lines to Dominica, especially from North America, have indicated that bunker fuels have gone up. And they have already shared with us the possible impact of that. And we will expect to see the impact hitting us very soon. I am saying all of this to say that we are so interconnected that we must be able to respond to these external shocks. So we expect the impact. As I said, the fuel prices have gone up, and I think everybody has gone to the pump and have seen. And that's why, I'm very happy to see the full commissioning of geothermal plant that some of you may consider going electric. But we'll talk about that another time. But we all are affected at the pump. We're all affected by the pump. So we've seen the increase in prices at the pump. We're going to see the increase in the cost of fertilizer, possibly. Pharmaceuticals, that is one that shocked me. I honestly, yes, I didn't think of that one. Syringes and all these things are made out of plastic are produced from petroleum. Petroleum is the main source, the main raw material for those things. And therefore, we expect to see some movement on pharmaceuticals. So that is part of all the concerns that we've been looking at and monitoring and trying to see how we can best advise the government to take the right policy decisions, FS, when we get to the next budget, because these are things that we have to prepare for. And these are part of what we will be facing in the coming days, weeks, or perhaps months. We pray that the ceasefire holds and that there will be some resolution to that dispute in the Middle East. Now, Mr. Speaker, I wanted to, I don't think it may be necessary now, but I got some pretty interesting figures that I wanted to share at some point. Because I know that it took us at least 6 weeks, or 4 weeks rather, since that war in Iran to increase the actual prices at the pump. And I want to spend just a little time on that. I will not go through the entire details that I prepared. But we often hear the criticism that when prices go down, or they're not going down in Dominica, but what I would love to hear people tell me is when they were looking at their TV and they saw the prices going up every day, almost every day in the United States of America, that they like to compare us with, I didn't hear them asking, well, why are you not increasing all your own too? But I've heard it the other way around. But I just want to explain. We have a pricing mechanism that we have introduced since the days of austerity program of the IMF, and we had a full pass-through, and we have taken our time to ensure at the Ministry of Trade that we can reflect the changes on the global market periodically. We try to do every 3 weeks. We try to stick to it as much as we can. And at worst, we may do it 4 weeks, but we try our best to keep it. So what you saw was the actual working of the system. So, Senator Paris, you're concerned about the interregnum between the end of our zero-rated goods to the beginning of this resolution's effect. But similarly, there are importers of fuel who paid a lower price but sell at a higher price. Now, when the price goes the other way, they will have the similar effect, well, the reverse effect. So you win some, you lose some. And I think the importers should be willing to work with us on that. That is in those that import in the 11 items. Because that is the way it's done in the fuel business. They win some and they gain some. Although somebody was so silly, I have to use that expression, it may not be very parliamentary, but it's the best I can come up with. Otherwise, I would go real soft on that. But it was very silly of someone from one of the importers to publish online the new pricing system. Because all it meant for them, well, a few days before it took effect, because all it meant is that I'll go and fill my tank before Monday, and you would have lost $2.68 on a gallon of diesel. How silly can you be? So I don't know if person thought they were embarrassing the government or hurting us. But what you were doing was hurting your employer. And I reached out to the employer and said, well, at least the manager, that I don't know how you're going to deal with that one. It was never meant that this thing should have been published, but you deal with your consequences. You know, so it is how irresponsible people can become. But I'm saying this to say that we are sticking through the system, and we're hoping that as things unfold, we will review as the government may see fit, because at the end of the day, we have to ensure that consumers get the best possible deal. But in Dominica, our prices, I must say, we are not the lowest, admittedly, but we are among the lowest for diesel and gasoline. And that is the situation in the Eastern Caribbean. Now, some countries don't have the same system as us. They don't have the same timing for their adjustments. Some of them, they don't have a proper system as we do. They just play it as it comes. We used to do that before, and we realized that was not sustainable. The same in the global prices, we've seen major increases. There are some places, even in the region, people paying 23 EC a gallon of diesel. 22 EC. In the UK, you pay £6 for a gallon of fuel. £6. Yeah, so we are not, I mean, I was shocked to see, even in Canada, one of the fourth largest reserves of oil and gas in the world, their prices are not much lower than ours, maybe just by $1 per gallon. You know, so we are not as bad as we may think. If we compare globally, we are really not bad. I mean, you don't expect to beat Guyana, but it's still $12.71 a gallon of gas in Guyana. No, it's Caribbean dollars. It's 205 Guyanese dollars. You know, so we are trying our best to manage this in a very difficult time. But it's important that we are aware of these things, Mr. Speaker. But Mr. Speaker, we really do hope, and we have been in touch with our friends across the Gulf, especially our presence in the UAE has given us direct contact with the government of the UAE, and we have been standing in solidarity with them. We have been working in the international community as well, at the United Nations, at the International Maritime Organization, because we believe in freedom of navigation. We recognize sovereignty of states, and of course the claim of sovereignty of 12 nautical miles from their shores, as we've seen in the Strait of Hormuz, which is less than 24 miles between two sovereign states. Therefore, it means that they can both claim that strait. So we continue to make our voices be heard in the international community with the hope that this tension can be reduced and that we can see things getting back to normal, hence reducing the pressure on fuel prices and fertilizer. Well, Mr. Speaker, finally, I want to close with just a simple thought that all of this have brought to me, because when you talk about the war in Iran, and now engulfing or expanded to Lebanon, what it tells you is that sovereign states, governments, countries, we need to pay attention to three fundamental things for our survival. Nothing that we don't know, but we need to be reminded and pursue them vigorously. Water. Water. Most of this country, sometimes 80% of their water is by desalination. They don't have groundwater, they don't have surface water. So sometimes we take for granted the fact that we have water, Minister of Forestry, and we just believe we'll always have water running the streams and rivers to the sea in Dominica. We have to manage that resource. We have to manage it properly. We have to protect it. Food. The point was made earlier. We need to, Minister of Agriculture, thank you very much for your leadership. We need to continue expanding production of food to sustain us. So you're not even talking about export, but merely being able to sustain your people, your country, your sovereign borders, and people who visit your country. We have to continue expanding on food production, agriculture, agro-processing, and to ensure that we can be able to sustain ourselves. And very importantly, thirdly, which is why there is always some war in the Middle East, it's always about oil, energy. Energy is the third one that we need to focus on. And I'm not saying this because of my Minister of National Security, my love affair with geothermal. It is not because of that, but it is really because of the central importance of energy. Because if you have energy, you can produce water, fresh water from salt water through desalination. You can produce food through irrigation systems, through whatever production means that you can create. So it is central. It is essential, but it is central to development. And I believe that we need to spend more time ensuring that we can fully remove our reliance on imported fossil fuel. And I believe we have that opportunity in Dominica. We are almost there with electricity. We're not that far away. We've had some challenges in the last few days. We hope to overcome by this weekend so that we can get back online with our full 10 megawatts. We have been going back and forth. We're back to 4 megawatts now, which is just about 40% of our capacity. We will be back as soon as some of the transmission issues are settled, because obviously it is a process and we're going through it. But we have to be able to start looking at that and do like some countries have done, like China. We have no oil reserves, by the way. So when I talk about the prices, one thing I forget to say that some of these countries I was quoting, they have oil reserves. They can turn on their oil, they don't have to import because they have capacity like China for 6 months. They have oil reserves. We don't. By the time NP and Rubis and West Indies oil, Petrocaribbean bring in a few, barrels or whatever they call the measure by, then that is like 2 weeks supply. Thank God we have the farm at Belfast, Petrocaribbean. We can hold supply for a little longer. But we really don't have the capacity to have months of supply, and therefore we are affected even more. But what China has done so intelligently is to focus on new energies, they call it, renewable energy, electric vehicles, electrifying their vehicle system, moving from internal combustion engines to electric vehicles. Once you can get a lower price, a reliable supply of electricity, it may be an advisable way to go, so that you can reduce your reliance, and then you can achieve what the PM spoke about, the primary surplus earlier. And we can reduce the foreign exchange that we have to put out buying fuel, because fuel is only purchased in dollar. And that is how we can help to make a more robust, resilient economy. And I really wish to submit, Mr. Speaker, that we preoccupy ourselves with those things as we struggle through a very difficult time, not only for us, but for the entire world, because people are now asking themselves questions. It was only a few months ago in September of last year that some people, after listening to the leader of the president of the United States, bash renewable energy, and some people were retreating from renewable energy because of that. Now all of a sudden, there's a new emergence, a new excitement. I actually was supposed to be on a panel right now in Vienna because for the Energy Week there, to talk about renewable energy. It's something I used to do every 2 years before I returned to Dominica. But I am, and next week, the Portuguese are hosting a major geothermal tour in the Azores and Gran Canaria, because they are now seeking to get countries more excited about renewable energy. So this is an opportunity for us, not to feel helpless, not to feel hopeless, but to take hold of the opportunities that we have and see what we can make best out of it, so that we may not even need to extend these zero-rated goods, because we will be able, through our abattoir, through our investments in agriculture, in livestock production, that we may have to reduce our need for this imported food. Now, Mr. Speaker, I support the resolution. Thank you.
Yes, Honorable Lavin.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, permit me at the very outset of my presentation to commend very highly the contributions by the Honorable Prime Minister for his address delivered this morning. Mr. Speaker, that was not just a presentation, but instead this was leadership on full display. It was leadership that was clear, Mr. Speaker, leadership that was grounded, leadership that was compassionate and people-centric, people-driven, Mr. Speaker. And it reminds me of a tenet, a truth, Mr. Speaker, one that is entrenched deep within our hearts, that this Labour Party administration is not merely about words, Mr. Speaker, but it is about work, it is about people. And Mr. Speaker, I must take this opportunity also in a very special way to thank and deeply commend Dr. the Honorable Irvin McIntyre, Minister for Finance, for taking this resolution before us to Parliament. And not only him, but to honor in a very special way the previous speakers on our side. Honorable Rayburn Blackmore and Honorable Vince Henderson, two people who have carried that mantle of leadership, of sacrifice, of vocation in a distinguished manner over a number of years. People who have stuck with it, that fight and compassion for people and service. Because it was easy, Mr. Speaker, that after 25 years, that we could have given up on some things that we have started. The idea in its infancy stage, and I speak to geothermal energy, because it was difficult and it was expensive. But today what we are seeing is a story of significance, how it applies today and how it is needed most at this time. And it shows that we are a government that when we promise, we deliver. When we announce, Mr. Speaker, it's not merely words, but it's words that will be converted to action. And I commend and I honor them in a very special way. And to hear the passion of Dennis Charles, the Minister for Tourism, in a time when we are so reliant on service industries and the productive sector, and to hear the passion in delivery and to note how that sector has continued to grow. So when she speaks about the airport with that passion and to want it and to call for it in such a deep emotional way, Mr. Speaker, that is steeped in love for people and the want for betterment of the people of Dominica. That is what this is about. And I must certainly note the utterances of Senator the Honorable Delbert Paris. Because, Mr. Speaker, it certainly takes a special type of fortitude, a Marigot type of fortitude, a Afu Awi type of fortitude. And Charles, you would know about that. To break ranks with tradition, to come in this most honorable house and to align with the social programs. Because this has not been tradition. Well, not from him, certainly, but from the party that he has traditionally been tethered to. And I wish to say, after this delivery today, that he may not likely, if already, but be welcomed into the fold, the rank and file of the UWP, this UWP present day. So that is something, for consideration. But someone with that fortitude, I don't think he has much to be concerned about, Mr. Speaker. But we certainly welcome that type of openness and fortitude. That is something that the House certainly appreciates. And that is something, that is the type of spirit and thinking that will benefit all of Dominica. So, congratulations to you, Mr. Paris. I'm certainly proud of your contributions this morning. And Tony, I know you're pleased with what I'm saying. So, Mr. Speaker, I stand here in absolute support of this resolution here before us. It is something, an idea that was conceived over 6 months ago. The people of Dominica have benefited significantly for 6 months. And this came to an end March 31st. But the challenges that we have faced as a people did not end March 31. The struggles of a single mother, single parent of children did not end March 31. And when I speak to farmers in my constituency and they tell me of the price of fertilizer right now, that did not end March 31. Mr. Speaker, if you attempt to fill your tank right now or to purchase fuel, you will realize what you paid 2 weeks ago will certainly not move the needle to the point where it was back then. the struggles did not end March 31. And this is why we are here today, because we are cognizant of the challenges, the realities that the people of Dominica face, and we are here to confront that head on, to grant them grace, to grant them hope, to grant them dignity so they can continue to live in a way that they deserve, in a way that this Labour Party has promised. That's why we are here today, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the 26 items that we waived the VAT on, or the import duties, these aren't items of luxury. These are items that if we go on the shelves of any shop or any home in Dominica, this is what we'll find: cream of wheat and cereal, peas, beans, lentils. That's what we will find. So when a mother goes to the store, Mr. Speaker, and before would have spent $300 on grocery items, and now, by way of a 15% VAT waiver on these items, and added to that the waiver of import duties, and you're able to save $70 on $300, that means a lot. Because no longer will they have to be by the cashier and have to put back $70 worth of items, Mr. Speaker, and counting in their minds for that $70 and hoping they don't cross that threshold. Their threshold now will be $230. And that buffer period is that buffer amount is that extra $70 to give them that comfort and that dignity that they know that there is affordability when they go to that line. That is what this government is granting. And that is why we are here to serve people, to align our policies and our actions with the hopes, the dreams, the realities of the people of Dominica. And that's what we are doing today. So I'm proud, I'm happy for the people that they stand to benefit in such a profound way, Mr. Speaker. And that is something that is certainly noteworthy. But Mr. Speaker, the truth is now, for some of them, that $70 on a $300 means 7 pounds of fish, of protein, a few extra boxes of cereal, transportation for 1 week for their children, almost a bag of fertilizer. This is what it means. This is about people. This is a government responding to the challenges of people. Mr. Speaker, I interacted last week with some children from the Mao Primary School, and you would be amazed of their fears, their concerns, what they talk about. When I was a child, the only sea I knew about was Mao Sea. Later, I found out it's called the Caribbean Sea. The only pin I knew about was a safety pin or a straight pin. The only straight I knew of was a straight pin. And now you have 6-year-olds talking about the Strait of Hormuz and Caspian Sea. Never before. Geography for our children is new right now. It has gone beyond the Caribbean Sea. It's gone to seas that we ourselves can't even see. But the fear is real. It's right here. It's on our home front. And this government is aware that these are the fears of our people. And we must respond. We must react. We must do something to abate those fears and mitigate risk and address these challenges that our people are confronted with every day in a real and tangible way, Mr. Speaker. So we are here by way of resolution asking that we extend that period of grace, that dignity to our people, Mr. Speaker. That is why we are here. And there are some who will say that we are spoiling our people, that everything is for free, that Labour Party, like Price is Right, give this away, give that away, the Price is Right is yours, house for free, this for free, education for free, almost trivializing dignity. That's what we are confronted with. But we see things differently, Mr. Speaker. So when they see this as a trivial matter, when they see this as a quest for power, we see it as a quest, a desire, a call to serve people. When they see this as freeness, as gifts, I assure you, Mr. Speaker, if that is what we call spoiling our people, this Labour Party government will continue to spoil the people of Dominica with dignity. We will continue to spoil the people of Dominica with savings at the grocery store. We will continue to spoil the people of Dominica with safety and security. We will continue to spoil the people of Dominica with hope, because that is what we are about, and we shall not be changed. This is not merely a philosophy, Mr. Speaker. This is what we believe in. And we continue to demonstrate this each and every day. And these policies that you see here, or you hear about in Parliament every once in a while, that's not half of it. That's not a quarter of it. That's not an iota of it, Mr. Speaker. Because they are silent policies that every day we act upon and change the lives of our people. Because, Mr. Speaker, when you have a young child, and my hope is that we are never confronted with these challenges, but it's a sad reality that if you have a young child or anyone, an adult, whoever it may be, who is in the ICU or accessing critical care, who has low blood pressure, or low blood volume, or low protein levels, and to stay alive, Mr. Speaker, might require human albumin. And Mr. Speaker, when you check the market price out there, anywhere from $1,700 to $2,100, and they require this every day. And we as a government, and these are the silent things we do, they're required to have it every day to be alive, Mr. Speaker. We could not sit by and see our people paying $2,100 every day. But instead, we decided to do our best to ensure that we have it available to our people at $300, Mr. Speaker. Can you imagine how highly subsidized this is? But we are not putting a price on human life as a government, Mr. Speaker. Imagine the audacity of people, of leaders to do that, to start in dollars and cents to calculate what it takes to keep people alive and do cost-benefit analysis to keep people alive. That is not what we are about. And that is what surprises many people who do not like this government, or those who do their best to try to get to the throne or the seat of power, because they don't understand how is it that we are able to achieve growth in this country, steady growth, after we've faced all these disasters, year in, year out. Environmental, economic, geopolitical, you name it. Things that we have no control over, that's what we are faced with. But there is growth. Growth in the economy. Not one that we are just merely touting ourselves, but one that is acknowledged by the IMF, by CDB, by OECS, you name it. how are we able to achieve this sustained growth and at the very same time improve the circumstance of our people through opportunities, through social programs, and to elevate their lives? So instead, they use theoretical arguments and economic theory on paper with little practice and assume that they're going to get great results. The people of Dominica know better. There's no greater teacher than experience. Mr. Speaker, there's no greater proof than the proof of the upliftment of people's lives of the past 25 years in this great country. We've been punching above our weight time and time again, Mr. Speaker. Even sometimes when I wake up in the morning and I do my prayers, I don't understand how we are able to achieve it, but we are alive and we are progressive and we have hope and we have faith, Mr. Speaker. And deep down in our hearts, even the detractors know. Even they know that we are onto something. And we are doing fine. We are doing great despite all of what we are up against. Mr. Speaker, it is time that we are all honest with ourselves as Dominicans. It is time we start rallying around truth. It is time that we start acknowledging what we see, what we know to be real, what we know to be tangible, not pie in the sky, not dreams, Mr. Speaker, but truth. It's time that we are tethered to the truth, Mr. Speaker, despite our differences. It is time that we throw our political affiliations with these misnomers and this untruth. Throw it in the Caribbean Sea or the Caspian Sea, whichever one we choose, Mr. Speaker. And align to what is real. Mr. Speaker, with these few words, I recommit my support to this resolution before us. Thank you sincerely.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, you may proceed.
Yes, I rise to lend my support to this resolution. I'm doing so, Mr. Speaker, because it really provides relief to our citizens at the groceries, Mr. Speaker. Much has been said as to the global conflicts and why we're here. But I want to narrow down, Mr. Speaker, on the impact this wars and the issues in the Strait of Hormuz will have on our food security. Looking at two lenses, Mr. Speaker. The impact it's going to have on the cost of fertilizer. As you know, 40% of urea and 35% of sulfate passes through the strait to various parts of the world. And of course, 45% of actual manufactured fertilizer passes through the strait as well. So eventually, though our main suppliers may not be from that region, but the laws of demand and supply will automatically increase the cost of fertilizer at some point. And we're already seeing that in the region. That will dramatically affect the cost of production for our farmers, thus increasing the cost of food. But Mr. Speaker, this government is always proactive. We have been putting measures in place to cushion some of the external impacts, Mr. Speaker. And we are doing so very well within the Ministry of Agriculture, I must say, Mr. Speaker. For the past 3 to 4 years, we have distributed over 10,000 bags of fertilizer for free given to us from our friends from Morocco, which is close to the area that we have all these conflicts, Mr. Speaker. So that too, we might be affected by even the supply from Morocco. But it's stress-free because of the countries in the region will receive similar gifts from Morocco, sell it at a price so they can have a revolving fund. But we see the bigger picture here because we put our farmers first, Mr. Speaker. So we're expecting that increase, and that's going, as I said, to increase food production, thus affecting our food security. But we have been putting measures to protect our food security, Mr. Speaker, over the past years, not just the 5 years, but past 15, 20 years, Mr. Speaker. Senator Paris mentioned about why can't we add more value to our locally produced commodities. I agree. We can always do better. But when we speak, we must speak with facts, because a lot is going on into the agro-processing. For the past 2 to 3 years, we have seen an increase of locally manufactured agro-processed products, an increase by 200 folds on a supermarket shelf. Quality packaged material, well printed, well presented, and of course, certified by the Donegal Bureau standards. This did not happen overnight, Mr. Speaker. This was because of direct investment by the government of Dominica. One, by providing the resources at the aid bank of $27 million, which we did lend to invest. Two, by the supporting facilities with the labs at the National Center of Testing Excellence. And three, by direct resources and grants that we've pumped into the agro-processing sector. Just for the past 2 years, Mr. Paris, we've invested $3.2 million cash into agro-processors by providing grants and by procuring the equipment so that they could produce the products in a safer environment. That is what we are doing. Recently, the Prime Minister had an audience with the beekeepers and the hot pepper producers. And he further told them that if they are serious, the government will put up the capital to fund an agro-processing facility for them to manage, so that they can consolidate, so we can provide and produce in larger quantities. So we are putting our money where our mouth is. In addition to agro-processing, Mr. Paris, we have ongoing a consultancy with the Caribbean Development Bank, and we have 4 ongoing contracts. I'll just name at least 2 or 3 of them briefly. One is to develop a sustainable plan inclusive of a sustainable and a strategic plan outlining the business case and financial and operational model for an agro-processing facility. The first one is to develop and implement a capacity development program for potential users of that facility. And the third one is to design, cost, an actual multi-purpose processing facility. And I will further say, we have already identified the land and location to have that facility constructed, Mr. Paris. So that's what we are doing. We're not just speaking and talking, we are working. And of course, putting where our mouth is, Mr. Speaker. But importantly, Mr. Speaker, the issues that we are facing now globally will have direct impact on our food security. And as a ministry, as I said, we have been putting measures in place to withstand all these shocks that we anticipate time to time. For example, Mr. Speaker, in terms of food security, we agree that we need to reduce the importation of chicken and pork by 30% by the year 2030. And to do so, we have just constructed a state-of-the-art chicken abattoir at the cost of $6.4 million, Mr. Speaker. And we have tested the lines, and everything is working crisp, Mr. Speaker. And we have now published an expression of interest for the private sector, like persons like the Paris family, to send proposals so that they can operate and manage that facility. But we did not stop them, Mr. Speaker. That was not done in isolation. We know that the abattoir will need raw materials, that being the chicks and the pork. For the past 3 years, we spent $7.9 million, Mr. Speaker, building resilient pens for our farmers, for pork farmers, chicken farmers, and for small ruminants, Mr. Speaker. And now some of them have already stocked and in production for the abattoir. In addition to that, Mr. Speaker, when we assessed the entire value chain for the livestock sector, we realized that we have an issue in the supply of the reliable supply of feed. And the cost of feed will also increase because of the issues we are facing in the Strait of Hormuz. Because once we need fuel to transport it to the region, the cost will go up. The supply of the wheat, the corn, and the other soy raw materials, the cost of production will go up, so we expect an increase in the feed as well. So to enable our farmers to have available, cheaper, and more reliable feed to sustain the production, we are currently investing in a feed mill, Mr. Speaker, at Longhouse Postport, Mr. Speaker. That's vision. That's looking at the sector. That's not mistake. That's strategic. That's not guesswork. That is working with a plan. So what's going to happen? We are going to see we have more reliable supply of feed, and we have anticipated a reduction of feed by 30 to 40% when the plant is operational. And that too, we will express interest for the private sector to send proposals so they can operate and manage that feed mill. Mr. Speaker, I'm saying that there, but all this investment is supposed to be done by the private sector. But government is taking the lead because it is slow in coming. And we are happy to do so that this public sector can participate in the development of the country, Mr. Speaker, and of course create employment and jobs for our citizens. Mr. Speaker, when we hear about agriculture, not just the current issues and that external shock that we are facing now, it's a very difficult sector to manage because of all the forces, external forces, climate change, pest and disease, and we have to be quick to put in measures to maintain that food security I'm speaking to. Recently, we discovered the lethal yellowing in coconuts, a very destructive disease, ravaged the coconut sector in Jamaica and other Caribbean countries, and you had to start from scratch. We spotted it in Woodfordale, and we're very proactive to implement our plan. So we have 400 acres on the zone as a red zone, and we are cutting back and burning and treating to ensure that we don't have it spreading too far out from the original zone that where we have it, Mr. Speaker. I'm saying all this to say we have to get resources to activate the plan so that we can contain that disease in that area. We have Chikungunya virus. We have the greening disease. All these are factors that are affecting our food security. And just to grow citrus, we had to spend $7.7 million constructing a citrus certification facility at Londonderry. And of course, my good friend, Mr. Paris, is one of the contractors on that facility. And he's doing a wonderful job, I must say. Very good job. Good engineering, diligent, and they're doing a wonderful job. So we're about 95% complete, Mr. Paris? Somewhere there. Very good. And we should have that handed over to us very soon. You know what I'm saying, Mr. Speaker? So all these are forces, external forces that the ministry has been faced with, the sector by the whole. And if you don't think we can have the resources to invest, to maintain our food security, you know we'll be in trouble. And that's what we have been doing over the years. Mr. Speaker. Again, battling climate change. we had to invest in irrigation. We supported our farmers with over $2.5 million worth of irrigation equipment. That is water tanks, pumps, drip lines, so that we can grow in the dry periods to maintain our production of vegetables and other crops that we have to supply looking back to ensure that Dominicans have the right food to eat at the right time. We invest in protected agriculture as well. These are things we had not to do before. But with all these impacts on the sector, we have to find the monies for us to invest, Mr. Speaker. We did not only focus on the crop side of agriculture. Fisheries, for example. We are currently investing over $4 million in landing sites so that the fishermen can bring our boats safely on shore. We built vending facilities in Newtown. In Focal, on the highway is looking so beautiful, Mr. Speaker. We passed a nice green building with sliding door for fishers, up and down door for fishers to vend in style, Mr. Speaker. We will correct amenities like our ice machines so our fish can be fresh, Mr. Speaker. We completed similar facilities in Dubla and Bioche and Maho and doing sleepaways in Stowe, Scotshead and Petit Soufouye, Mr. Speaker. That's the kind of work we are doing to ensure our protein security, Mr. Speaker. That's what a government does, and not just talk, but we put action, Mr. Speaker. With all this construction, Mr. Speaker, I cannot end that construction phase by not speaking about our new tissue culture lab that was funded by the Republic of China, Mr. Speaker. And the guys at the facility, Dominicans, I'm led by Trevor Douglas, are doing a wonderful job. I understand the committee of secretaries were there not too long. They were impressed. They got presentation from the staff. They said what they're doing. And they came highly commended, Mr. Speaker. They are just producing over 15,000 pineapples. That's a variety that's very rare and very highly marketable. Soon we'll run a program with our farmers with that. We are successful in dashing the most species, the plantains, the bananas, and sweet potatoes and cassava and vanilla. They are doing a wonderful job. All that to ensure that we have planting material, clean planting material on time, and can produce at least 500 seedlings in any one cycle, Mr. Speaker. So that's the kind of investment we are making to ensure that we have food security. I'm not speaking about citrus. We are currently distributing approximately 50,000 citrus plants from the 1 Mile Agri Station for farmers because we are making a deliberate effort to bounce back our citrus industry. So yes, the external shocks, it will affect our food security. But as a government, we are not going to stoop low and lie and say, Bondi will die. No. We'll put system in place. We'll invest in the sector to ensure that we protect our food security, Mr. Speaker. And that did not stop there, Mr. Speaker. Last budget, if you can recall, we introduced a rebate program. All that is ensuring food security and forward thinking, preparing for that shock that we're experiencing now. So we are saying, if you are to invest in poultry, broiler in particular, again, to support the national abattoir. So remember from our you see already in tiny. So what I'm saying is not just doing things vai, we're doing things properly. Very, very properly. That's how we did it. You understand? So we introduced the rebate program to support the investment in broiler production, to support the 5,000 birds we need to process a day at the abattoir. So I'm saying, if you invest in a poultry pen to do broilers, you can get 40% back on your investment at a maximum of $20,000, my brother. So you say, no, tying up, but we'd fix everything forming a nice, beautiful picture by 2030. That's what we're talking about. Very good. In addition, we have been impacted by climate change, so we must go into protected agriculture. We are saying if you invest in hydroponic systems, you invest in greenhouse sheds, you can get back 40% of your investment at a maximum of $20,000. In addition to that, we're saying if you go into cocoa, coffee, citrus, you get a rebate back on every acre you plant at a maximum of $2,000, Mr. Speaker. So that's the kind of vision and strategy and policies we have put in place to ensure our food security. That is what has been affected now because of the issues in the Middle East, Mr. Speaker. So we have planned ahead, and at the ministry we are prepared to withstand some of the shocks, Mr. Speaker. Well, the issues that we have faced when we did our first round of town hall, every town hall we had, the main issue was farm labor. Every farmer said that is either the cost of labor is too high or there's not sufficient skilled labor for the farms. What we did, we introduced a farm labor program, all that tied to food security, to ensure that we can bring in labor from overseas to assist our farmers on the farm so we can have increased production and sustained production year-round, Mr. Speaker. And that has been going well. We have assisted over 30 farmers under that program, and so far we have brought in over 100 farm workers to support that program. And the farmers are pleased, and we're already seeing the impact based on the increased production we are experiencing on the farm, Mr. Speaker. So everything is just tying up nicely, Mr. Speaker. Lastly, I'd like to mention again in ensuring our food security is sustained and how we have planned to withstand these pressures is agro-insurance. In the last budget, that was mentioned. We have been studying and working different proposals that were submitted, and hopefully I'll be able to present something in the next week or two. The best model that we could invest in agriculture insurance to protect our farmers in times of disaster. It has worked in Grenada. The Grenada government has invested $1 million at COPEF, right, based in Dominica, a month before it was struck by the last hurricane that struck them. And we paid off Beryl, and we paid off $4 million. St. Lucia just signed on, and St. Kitts has signed on. But we in Dominica, we are trying to bring the best model so that our farmers and fishers can benefit from it. But however, we are saying that we think that the farmers should have a stake, a paying into that program, so there'll be that level of ownership. So at the ministry level, we are trying to finalize that program, and sooner rather than later, we'll be able to announce the best model to protect our farmers. So, Mr. Speaker, I was wanting to zero in on how we are protecting our food security, and how happy I am to present on this resolution, because I can see how it can benefit our local people, because all of us to go at the grocery, and we would need that relief as well. So with this short intervention, Mr. Speaker, I want to reiterate my support and lend my support to the resolution. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker, I rise to conclude on the debate of the value-added tax schedule amendment order 2026. But before I proceed, let me make it abundantly clear that this is retroactive and the effective date is 1st of April, just to clarify the air on this one. And so it's retroactive and it's 1st of April. But Mr. Speaker, with all the deliberations this morning, we'd have recognized that it's actually a balancing act between the comforting the consumers, the people of this country, as well as balancing our finances of the country. And we've always put the people first. We will always continue to put the people first to make sure they have a dignified, comfortable lifestyle. But at the same time, we've been putting things in place, as you heard from many of the speakers this morning, to address our productive sector, which would eventually diversify our economy, as well as to put us in a better economic situation and stance that if at all we were to continue some of these social programs later down, obviously we'll be able to balance with the improved economic status of the country as well as the diversification of the country. And with all the investments that you've heard in all the major capital projects and in all the different sectors, whether it's in tourism or energy or agriculture. And as the Minister of Agriculture was saying, we cannot see those things in isolation. They all form part of the bigger puzzle. These are the trees that make up the forest. So granted, yes, we are providing comfort to the people of the country, but at the same time, we're investing in some really strategic areas, which would put us in a much better fiscal situation. What might be missing, though, Mr. Speaker, is for the private sector to come on board with what the government is doing. We put so many different things in place. You heard this morning the amount we have at the aid bank at really concessionary interest rates. That would really encourage the private sector to be part of that as well, so that they can be part of the whole production and the economic diversification of this country. So, Mr. Speaker, I won't be long because a lot has been said from all the different sectors, but I really want to just thank the Minister of Finance, our Financial Secretary, all the staff there who put this, all the different documents together, because we were not just doing that blindly. We have to add all the documents, the revenue foregone, etc., and put it together and balance it off so that we can say, okay, yes, we're coming for another 4 months because our budget will be due in July. So in a nutshell, Mr. Speaker, I'm happy that the entire House has agreed to this value-added amendment for 2026. And I think we're moving in the right direction, because you only get to know this when you mix with the everyday person and you listen to their stories, and when they've come from buying groceries or they're going to buy groceries, and you see the effect it has had on so many of the masses of this country. You recognize that it's a cushioning effect. It costs the country, but as I said, we always put the people first. And we did that because we're in contact with the people. We know what the people face and the experience. I won't get into all the international and geopolitical issues that have brought us to this situation, but at the end of the day, we've always put the people first, and we'll always comfort and cushion the effect on the people of Dominica. So, Mr. Speaker, with these few words, I close up the debate on our value-added tax schedule amendment. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
This concludes the debate on the motion. I will now put the question. Be it therefore resolved as follows. 1. This order may be cited as the Value-Added Tax Schedule Amendment Order 2026. And 2. The Value-Added Tax Schedule Amendment Order 2026, which were laid on the table of the House on the 10th day of April 2026, is affirmed. Those in favor? Aye. Those against? The ayes have it. The motion has been affirmed.
Okay, that's it. Mr. Speaker, I move that the House be adjourned sine die.
Seconded.
It has been moved and seconded that the House be adjourned sine die. Those in favor? Those against? The ayes have it. House is adjourned sine die.